You know him and you love him from movies like Legally Blonde, one of my favorites, Old School, The Royal Tenenbaums, just to name a few. Now he stars in the movie Death at a Funeral, my pal, the one and only Luke.Wilson.
How's it going, man?
You know what? It's been too long, brother. It's almost been like a year, man.
I know, it has been a long time. And I was saying backstage, like, I was really nervous when George had his first show. Like, I was like, he's going into this hallowed ground of, like, Johnny Carson, Jack Parr, Letterman. And I was really nervous for you your first night. And then you came out. And then you had me laughing, like, before you even said a word, just the way you were, like, dancing, doing all these, like, moves, like those prison picture things, like those. I was like, this is going to be great.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
No, it's been incredible.
Thanks for finally making it down here, man. I appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me.
All right. We did a movie called Henry Poole Is Here. You were fantastic in that movie. And that's where we met. We met at a reading of the
You're
script.
still the only priest I've ever partied with.
Was it weird when I was in my robe and we'd all drinking beers?
Yeah, we'd be having like tequila and beer, and George would still have his wardrobe on. I'd be like, would you pass me that shot glass, please?
What about when I would go across the street and talk to kids? It looked bad, didn't it?
It really did.
I'd be over there surrounded by kids, and Luke's like, hey, Papa, you might want to come back over here. It kind of looks kind of odd.
Remember that older lady, and you were like, the grandmother had her kids down, and George was like, you know they're stealing all your pills, don't you?
Now, we played golf a lot of places. Last year we went to Austin, and I met your parents, who I think are really great parents.
Right,
They're very cool, man.
Yeah, no, it was in Fort Worth, actually.
Fort Worth, yeah.
Yeah, but... yeah, my dad still asks about you because my dad, you know, he's older. He's like in his early 70s now. Like, grew up in the 50s, but that day he had on a button-down shirt, buttoned to the top, and Wayfarers. And George was saying, like, the guy looks like a cholo. The guy looks like he looks like he's in American Me. He looks like Edward James Olmos. And still to this day, my dad's like, now what's the name of your friend from Fort Worth, the really funny guy? Jim Lopez? And I'm like, Dad, it's George Lopez, and he's like a big star.
He didn't know that I was a comedian. He just thought I was a funny dude from Fort Worth.
Hilarious. George was saying, like Mr. Wilson was saying, if I catch you looking at Mrs. Wilson, I'm gonna stick you.
Yeah, no, he was a full-on cholo. I was like, is Luke your son? Don't worry about it, fool. So, don't worry about my son. I have to worry about your own kids. Now, me and Sam Jackson won the 2008 Bob Hope Celebrity Pro-Am Golf Tournament. Wow. Winners. How great is it that Sam Jackson makes everybody say please when they ask for an autograph?
No, it's great. Like, Sam's like, people will be like, get real nervous and be like, hey, can I get your autograph? He's like, please. And they're like, excuse me? And he's like, say please, mother effer. So I would like get behind people and be like, Jackson, give me your autograph over here. And he'd be like, who the hell's just saying it like that?
Remember that time he said, I don't work for you? Like, just out of the blue.
Yeah.
But you get nervous in crowds and playing golf.
I do. Like, I'd get nervous, like, because there are like fans watching, and it's like not being a good golfer, you're worried you're going to hit somebody. And I'd think, like, gosh, I wonder if George is nervous too. And I would look over, George would be in somebody's house in Palm Springs, literally eating, getting a margarita. Like, at one point, I was watching a TV in the house with George in the house, eating.
Going through the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Now, you and I both went out on Wednesday. We were a little bit kind of cooked, and then we had a Bloody Mary that Thursday at La Quinta, and we played lights out. And we were like, what are we doing practicing? We just let us go have some drinks, man, some Patron.
Yeah, it seemed to help it.
What was it like to watch golf this weekend and every commercial be your AT&T commercial?
Yeah.
You've all seen Luke's AT&T commercial. Bro, They're everywhere.
I know. I have some pretty disappointed friends who are like, man, if I wanted to hang out with you and watch the game, I'd call you. But
all right, we're going to come back with more Luke Wilson. Don't go anywhere.
The real reason why I don't want to go out with you is because it was a mistake before. We had a couple of intense months, but then I realized that we just...
They're not true. We had a lot of fun. I bought you a watch, right?
Here.
All right,
take it.
Please. What about our first night together? After Norman's party? That was amazing. Transcendent.
I was so drunk. You could have been a donkey for all I knew.
Thank you.
Death at a Funeral. I saw the movie.
good.
There's a lot of talent that was very good, and there's a lot of talent in that movie. Did they shoot it in L.A.?
Yeah, shot in L.A. There's Tracy Morgan, who's incredible, Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence, Zoe Saldana, James Marsden, who's going to be here. Yeah, it was great. It's so fun to work with, you know, like stand-ups. I'm like such a big fan. Like it's such a difference between like being a comedic actor, being in movies, but like to do what you do, to like go up on stage for an hour and a half or 2 hours, like Tracy and Chris and Martin do, like that's, you realize what an incredible talent that is. It makes me think, but it's like, you'll hear sometimes that like, yeah, some comedians, you meet them and they're like really funny on stage, and then you meet them and they're like, yeah, hey, how you doing?
It's true.
And then like when I first met George on this movie, Henry Poole, it was like 6:50 a.m. in the morning, we're riding the set, had just met George, it was real early, and this old couple crossed the road, and George said just to himself, he was like, how messed up is that? You get to a certain age and you and your wife got the same haircut. And I was like, I'm gonna get along with this guy.
What about when we were doing Henry Poole Press and a taxi goes by and it said Legally Blonde, the Broadway play. And I said, can you believe that, man? They made a play out of that movie? And then you look back, you were in the front, you go, Papa, I was in that movie. I was like, oops. In Death and a Funeral, you play Tracy Morgan's best friend.
Best friend.
He's becoming like one of those cats that everybody's got a story about. But I've never met him, but you worked with him. He's a trip like all day.
He really is, and he's a great guy. And I mean, it was the kind of thing where I'd be like, I have to start writing this stuff down, because he'd say one hilarious thing and then move on to the other. Like, I was doing press with him this weekend, and he was, for like half an hour, he was doing Darth Vader leaving messages on Luke's answering machine, like, beep, hey, Luke. It's DV, Darth Vader, your father, just checking in, seeing if you're around. Like doing that like all day.
What about when you guys were shooting like camera shots and he was asking women for their numbers while you guys are kind of rolling down the street?
Yeah, we were in a picture car, which is where they have the car up on like a little trailer and they're just like dragging you around town. And Tracy would be like talking to girls on the street, like it was two guys just driving around, and yeah.
and didn't he come to work like with Michael Jackson's glove, like wearing his glove?
No, at one point, this was it was right when Michael Jackson had announced that he was going to do those shows in London before he'd passed away, and Tracy was like, you know, I bought Mike's glove, the one from the Thriller video. And I was like, really? You bought that? How much did that cost? She was like, $17,000. I was like, man, you got ripped off. And then Michael Jackson died, and I read in the paper it's worth 43 grand now. Seriously, so that's Tracy in a nutshell.
So he made money on the glove.
Yeah, totally.
I actually wanted to buy that glove. You and I played a lot of golf. We've won a tournament together, and I know we played in Hawaii and done things in Hawaii. I got a little something for you, brother, because I love you so much as my buddy, and that's for you, Luke.
Oh no!
Open that up.
Oh, look at this, man! Awesome.
Death at a Funeral is in theaters this Friday. My boy Luke Wilson. Hanukkah's coming out next. Don't go anywhere.